All right, here's 311 in 3 minutes. Today we're going to talk about, or 311, we're going to talk about the multiplicative identity. Sounds like a pretty big word, and I'll be honest with you, it does sound pretty crazy, but it isn't as bad as you might think. We'll talk about the multiplicative identity right at the very end there. First, let's just talk about equivalent fractions. So equivalent fractions, you should hopefully kind of see the word. It's not in there exactly, but kind of almost that equal in there. And so what we're looking for are fractions that are equal to each other. They might not be the same numbers, but they could be equal to each other. So if I had a half, I could also say that 2/4 is an equivalent fraction, can't I? Or 10/20, or how about 100 200ths? Right? All these fractions, when you simplify them the most, or simplify them down, in other words, make them the smallest numbers that you can, those would be a half, right? And I could do the same thing, but if I had 100 over, 150, right? I could simplify this, and eventually, when I just keep going, I'm coming up with more and more equivalent fractions, and ultimately, they're all, like I said, equal to each other. Well, how does that connect to today? Let's tie it back to something that we did previously with ratios. So a ratio of cars to trucks is 2 to 3. Now, a lot of times we didn't do this as a fraction. Well, most of the time we did them as something like a 2 to 3 or 2 to 3. However, we're going to look at it as a fraction because it'll tie really well to today. So how many cars are there if you have 21 trucks? Well, I already filled in the work, right? 2 cars to 3 trucks, and I can inch my way up and find out that at 21 trucks I have 14 cars. However, like always, you guys probably found a quicker way to do this by multiplying by 7 and multiplying by 7, right? Well, those two things are the key part for today. Because right here, if we could do this with a fraction or a ratio, what we introduce is called the giant one. I take 3 and I multiply it by 7 to get to 21. But in order for this fraction, that fraction right there, to be equal to 1, it has to be 7 over 7. That's the only way it could work, because 7 over 7 equals 1. Well, if I look at what we call those numerators, those top numbers, right? 2 times 7 is 14. And this is the key part for today. We have what's called the giant one. That's going to be common language. And honestly, the giant one is using the multiplicative identity, meaning you multiply by 1. We'll talk more about it in class. Have a good day.